that you abolished the diaper tax.
The thing is, if you've met one person with dementia, you've met one person with dementia. Every single one is different right now.
When you're the dean of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac University for
because it's allowed me to understand education.
I started traveling the country, just training people to understand these disabilities.
That was one of the reasons why I brought you on to discuss that.
Monday night, 8 p.m. EST.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Pamela Roth Live. We are coming at you live tonight. It's Monday, June 12th, 2023. So welcome. I am so excited tonight to have our guest, and he is a man who knows and has done so much, and I'm sure he still has much more that he wants to accomplish. Here he is. He is a luchador. His name is Carlos Los Espada, and we're going to call him Carlos tonight. I've met Carlos many years ago when he was still wrestling as a professional wrestler. Since then, what he's been involved in is incredible. He has performed with members of the Kiss band. He has created and formed his own Kiss tribute band called Kiss Nation. Not only that, as a musician and as a former professional wrestler, coming from a wrestling family, he has created his own toy line. He has worked with Asylum Toys. He has worked with Mattel Toys. He has over 200 toy packages that have his name listed on the back. Not only that, he is also a children's author of books. He has also written his own book on quotes, personal quotes. And what else can we tell you before he tells it all to us himself? He has also created this incredible program for reaching out to children with a literacy program, and that is called Wrestling with Literacy. So before I tell you everything, I want us to hear it straight from the mouth of Carlos. Please, Carlos, come join us.
Hello, everybody. I said every time I hear people introduce the things I do, I feel like Apollo, Creed, and Rocky when they kept going on and on with the nicknames. Yeah, with the nicknames kept going on and on. Yeah. And you never realize all this. You never realize all the stuff you do until somebody else kind of, starts to list it off. It's exhausting. Yeah.
I know. Did I do all those things?
It's exhausting. No.
And I'm sure there's so much more that you've done and so much more that you're going to be doing.
There's so much. There's a lot to do before I close my eyes. Okay. For good.
Perfect.
But
that's how I feel. We to everyone who's joining us tonight, Carlos and I were speaking backstage, and we have so much in common. I am not a wrestler. That's one thing we don't have in common. But we're both very artistic, and we put our hands into everything having to do with art and music, and so much that we have a passion for. And the two of us share a passion for art and being creative.
Yes.
So please share with us about this really amazing, colorful family background that you have.
Oh, God. Well, I grew up in a pro wrestling family. My father and my uncle were a tag team called the Silver Angels. Then my mother was also what we call a worker. She was a wrestler as well. She was called the Black Widow. So she would basically just show up whenever a female opponent didn't make it to the arena. My mother would throw a mask on and jump in the ring and put her over, as they say, help, make the worker shine. So it was interesting because my life was basically a carnival. It's pro wrestling is kind of like a traveling freak show in its own right. So it just kind of comes full circle with my band Revolt. But so for years, that's all I knew. So when everybody wanted to be policemen and doctors and blah, 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 firemen, I was like, I'm going to be a pro wrestler. I'm going to, do the best I can and get to the top of that industry.
So did you grow up with all the famous household names that we heard from wrestling, like, say, Hulk Hogan, The Sheik? I know The Sheik just passed away.
He just passed away, yeah.
this week.
Yeah, we had a few of those guys stay in our house from time to time before they even got to that pinnacle, because back then wrestling was in territories. So whenever wrestlers would wrestle, whoever lived in that particular city or town, everybody would use their house as a crash pad to save on hotel money. So, when we were kids, any given day, you're just stepping over bodies to go to the bathroom, because we wrestlers just laid out all over the floor, sleeping, and every ounce, like somebody would be in a corner, somebody would be in a chair. So it was mayhem. But that was our life.
What was it like growing up surrounded by all these professional wrestlers?
It was cool. It was like living with Marvel superheroes to me, because it was like some of them, everybody had like a different superpower, if you will. Like some guys were tall, some guys were big, some guys were heavy. So, we had the little guy, the little people, we had the mass wrestlers. So, so it was really interesting. Like I don't know anything else. So to me, it was normal. Everybody's like, oh, that's really weird. I'm like, oh, it wasn't. It's like, if you grew up with just circus performers, you would probably feel the same way. It's normal. It's just like going.
That's right. Because kids who grow up with family members who are clowns and travel with the circus, that's all they know.
Yeah, yeah. So if you're in that world from the time you open your eyes till the time you close them, you don't know any different. Yeah. So it makes interesting stories.
Curious, did these wrestlers, were they always in their particular costume or their persona, or they ever not dress as the Sheik, or like wear a mask like your father and your uncle?
Right. In certain countries, yes. In America, it's not as that's what they call kayfabe era, is where you didn't break character. Like Undertaker is the king of kayfabe, because for 30 years that guy never broke his character. I don't know how he did it, but he stood that he kept that going. But in America, it wasn't so much so, like because it's especially in New York, it's easy to get lost in a crowd. Right. So but in like places like Mexico they never really take off their mask. That's their lifestyle the whole time. So it kind of changed as time went on. But back in the I remember working with the Sheik and traveling. I traveled with him twice, and he never took off his shoes, his famous pointy shoes. I don't know, he wore them like they were everyday shoes. So of course that would give him away, obviously, and the way he looked.
The pointed slipper.
Yeah, right. He would always wear his wrestling boots he wore every day, pretty much. So I always found it kind of strange, but I was like, I guess it's one less thing to change when you're in the locker room, I guess.
So now you traveled with your family, and then you were also a lucha libre.
I did wrestling for 3 years. Yeah, I was a luchador for 3 years. Then I had a neck injury, and that was the be all end all. So from that, since I still had the passion for it, and I couldn't really work anymore, me and my dad and my uncle, we started our own wrestling promotion called Wrestling Worldwide. And the premise of that wrestling promotion was we were going into the lower income areas and bringing wrestling to these families that couldn't afford tickets to Madison Square Garden. So it was great. We go in the middle of the projects and we put up this wrestling ring, and all the wrestlers would freak out. They're like, people gonna throw stuff at us. I'm like, no, they're not, trust me. And everybody loved it. We got a lot of awards actually from the state of New York from the city of New York for bringing entertainment to the low income areas. And we did that everywhere. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It was cool. Yeah.
Because I know I'm going to be bouncing around asking you all these questions.
No worries.
I know in speaking with you and, of course, reading all about you, you created a program called Wrestling with Literacy.
Yes, Wrestling with Literacy. That's almost the same premise as our promotion, is to bring, bring education and literacy to low income areas. And as the program's growing, we'll get people like, we just did something with Embassy Suites, the Hilton brand. We did an appearance at the Lake George Elementary, where Hilton actually donated 50 of my books to the school, to the children of the school. We did a reading, and when I do the readings, I wear my dad's mask, and it's kind of like him being there with me. So, and it's funny because at the beginning, when I got there, I said, "Well, how are we getting in?" They said, "Oh, through here." I said, "I don't want nobody to see my face." They didn't understand it, but then when I came out and the kids went bananas, they got it. It's like it's kind of like, this is not something they get to see. Yeah, and this is not something they get to see because again, these wrestling tickets and a lot of them are big ticket items that family. If you have a family of 2 or 3, your spouse, by the time you go to an event, even if you go to a movies nowadays, it's going to cost you $100 if you're bringing your family with you and everything. And if they want T-shirts and blah, blah, blah.
Right. Between tickets and the snacks and everything.
Right. And any merchandise, God forbid.
When you go to these events, these wrestling events, that you have to pay for the photograph with an autograph.
Yes.
To have that opportunity to take a photo with your favorite wrestler. But of course, then they have like the action heroes, the figures, the T-shirts, posters.
Yeah, and that's the idea. Is to eventually, as this program evolves, we'll start getting other wrestlers involved with it and bringing them in to do a book reading and an autograph session and such. So it's at the beginning of the stages of it now. So I'm building it slowly but surely as we go along. I mean, it's something that's really near and dear to my heart because I love just helping everybody. So I think kids of any, you shouldn't be denied entertainment because you're born under a certain income rate.
I agree with you.
If you will, So to me, and to me, it's always giving back. You always got to give back. So if you're blessed with anything, with art, with music, with whatever you're blessed with, those gifts are there for you, but they're there for you to help others with it.
To share with everybody.
Yeah.
Did you face any challenges when you were starting and creating this wrestling with literacy program and bringing it to the inner city kids? Because I know it's not only inner city children, you're also bringing wrestling and these books and this event to children with disability.
Yes. Well, each one is different. Each one has a different set of rules and such. So like some schools don't want any photographs, and so we always ask first before we do anything. We always clear everything with them, and then they also have to look over the books and make sure everything is friendly for children. So all my stuff is complete. Even my comic book Supergroup Go, completely kid friendly. I keep everything, and everything kind of has a little moral to the story in there. So there's always a little life lesson that I try to keep in there. So it's been really, thankfully, it's been really good. We haven't had any negative feedback or anything like that. So, and the kids just love it.
I was going to say, how have the kids interacted with you? Like when they see you for the first time, if they've never seen a professional wrestler before, now they see you come in with the mask and with maybe the whole entire costume.
Oh, the room erupts. Yeah, the room erupts with cheers and happiness and everybody. And they'll ask me a few questions. The one question is always, "Can you take off your mask?" So I always go, "What mask? I'm not wearing a mask." So they start giggling. I used to work in a preschool with my mother, and for about a year. So it was always interesting. So the one thing about children is, you want to talk to children, you don't want to talk down to children. So it's a very fine line. You got to be careful, like how you speak to children. So especially nowadays, because a 5th grader is probably smarter than a 10th grader from our generation.
They're exposed to a lot more in 5th grade than we were in 10th grade.
Absolutely.
Can you imagine, with everything that you can find on a smartphone?
Oh, yeah.
Is when we used to have to go to the library and do the research and go through every book of an encyclopedia. Now you have all of that just with a button.
Oh, I try to tell people all the time, like, there's no excuse for you not to know something. You can key it in, and there's a million tutorials on how to do almost anything you could think of. So,
exactly.
So you can't. Before we had to go look at the little index cards and find the book, and it was. I mean, I used to actually, oddly enough, I'll admit this, but don't do this at home. I used to actually cut school, and my mother would think I was at parties, but I was actually in the library. Because I would go and read about the subjects I wanted to read about, So school to me I felt like I was already, I knew a lot of the lessons. So to me, it was boring. So I was like, I'm going to go read about, and I would go read about people like Stan Lee and Jim Henson and Walt Disney. And I'd go read about these people who were basically my professors in a way, So that's where I think I was, at one point we went to the library and everybody knew my name. It was like Cheers, and everybody's, "How do they know you?" I said, "I'm here every day." So
I don't think you can find most people and most children right now in libraries in schools across the country, which is very sad.
Which is it's heartbreaking. I mean, well, you could read it. I'm an artist, so I'm a texture guy, so I still like hardcover books and stuff like that.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
not a fan.
I like actually taking a bookmark and putting between the pages. I don't like to bend the pages. I like when you open up a brand new book, the sound of the book spine just like opening up, and like that fresh paper smell from a book.
Yeah. That's a part of being an artist. It's the texture thing. Like I just love I love dealing with it. Even like I'd rather have a newspaper than read my news on the internet.
Yes.
You know, you can't find any newspapers nowadays, but
they got thinner and thinner.
and more expensive too. Like
yes.
The daily news used to be 35 cents.
It's supposed to be all the news fit to print. Yeah, I know, and it's not worth it.
Now I'm showing my age. Yeah.
We both are. How about the Sunday newspapers? But the best I used to run to the Sunday newspapers first
Cartoons.
to get the comics. Yeah.
Because
I used to sketch them freehand.
Yes, that's how I learned how to draw, mimicking all the cartoons. Too. I can still do a mean Hagar without right from memory.
I could do a great Snoopy. My Snoopys look good. We got the artist coming out of us.
Yes.
So what was it like, how did you develop Kiss Nation?
Kiss Nation.
Because you played the part of Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons, yes. I was too ugly to be anybody else in that band. But it was funny because I dressed up as Gene Simmons for a Kiss convention, and everybody went bananas. And they're like, "Oh my God, you look just like him!" And everybody's taking pictures and stuff like that. So I got approached by a few bands, and at that time, I didn't play any bass, I didn't sing, I was just walking around in a costume. And a friend of mine, he had actually had a Kiss tribute band, and they needed a guy to fill in. So I hired a friend of mine who was this amazing musician. He basically lived with me for like 2-3 weeks and showed me how to play bass, and it was a lot more trouble than I thought it was going to be. Like play, not only playing, sticking out your tongue, singing the songs, moving. Like if you watch a Kiss show, nobody stands still. Everybody, there's constant motion. So it was probably not my best first show, but then I just got bit by the bug. So I did that, and then that band broke up. I only did one show with them, and then I wanted to put together a Kiss tribute band. And so at that time, Kiss had a website. They still do this, Kiss Online, but at that time they had a tribute band page. So as research and development, see what's going out there. That's how I go on there, look at all the tribute bands, and everybody has the same exact costumes. And the only thing that changed was the names, but everybody looked exactly the same. So out of 200 bands, all of them did one singular look, or maybe two at best. For me, I wanted to do something completely far out of that realm, because my idea was I wanted to be so out of this world that Kiss themselves would be like, oh, let's check these guys out. And that's what ended up happening in the long run. So I auditioned for bands. I hated it because everything was, this costume, this set list, and that was it. And it was very by the book. Yeah, it was too rigid for me. Like, we don't do anything past 1979 because that was the last original lineup. Well, their biggest hits were in the 80s. So why would you not play those songs? So we went and we did we didn't use the original characters. We used Eric Carr, the Fox, instead of Peter Criss, the drummer, who was the drummer. Peter Criss was a cat man, so he was the drummer. But we went with Eric Carr, the Fox, who was the drummer that replaced Peter Criss. And we did the costumes from it was based off the worst Kiss tour ever. It was Creatures of the Night. It was a tour that flopped, but we loved the look, and it was so different. So when we first put that photo out on that Kiss website, everybody laughed at us. Nobody wants to see this and blah, 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 blah. And we did every song that bands weren't doing. We did stuff from the 80s all the way from, at that point, by the time we did that band, the album Revenge was out. We did like everything from there, like from that whole run. So it immediately took off like wildfire because we were the alternative. So everything that everybody, and we just, at that point, it was within probably 4 to 6 months, the band was just booked. We were doing every convention. We were doing every appearance. And then Kiss got a hold of us Well, Tommy Thayer from Kiss had got a hold of me first, and he said, "Hey, he called my phone, and this is the time we had flip phones." So I get a look at a California number. I don't know this guy, so I pick up the phone. I say, "Hey man, it's Tommy Thayer." At that time, he's Kiss's current guitar player, but at that time he was their stage manager. And he said, "Hey man, Gene wants you to do an appearance with him on MSNBC, and we're gonna pick you up, but it's a morning show, so please be ready by 5 o'clock." So now that means 5 o'clock ready. I have to get up at almost 2 o'clock to get in my gear in order to be ready by 5 o'clock. So I said, "Ha ha." Very funny. I don't know who this is, but you got it. No worries. He's like, "No, for real."
You thought it was a prank.
I thought it was a joke. I was like, I'm not buying this. I was like, no. I said, let me tell you, if I get up at 2 in the morning to get ready by 5, whoever this is, we're gonna have a problem on the other line. I don't know who you are, but we're gonna have a problem. There's a lot of work. And no, he said, "No, we're gonna send a car to pick you up. I promise you, it's on the up and up. Keep my number." And sure, true to word, I got there, and Gene and I did. That was one of our first appearances, and then it was like everywhere Gene Simmons was, I was getting calls to be everywhere he was. So he would show up without makeup, I'd show up in makeup, and we stand together, and do all
Like
these.
before and after.
Yeah, I was basically his doppelganger. So I'd stand behind him. It was almost like Star Wars, where the Emperor and Darth Vader are standing there. So Gene Simmons is the Emperor, and I'm Darth Vader just standing behind him. So it was surreal though. This was a guy that, I had posters of on my wall for years. I was a Kiss fan since I was 5 years old. So for this to be happening, it was really crazy. And then the band started taking off, and then VH1 had came in and they wanted to do a documentary on the band. And we said, sure. So they followed us for us. I think about 2-3 months, they followed us around, and they got like our personal lives and all that stuff. And they were like, "Hey, we're going to fly you to California to do a corporate show to kick off the show." They said, "Okay, no problem." So they flew us out there. It was great. When you fly first class, that's when you realize you have to start making better life decisions. So I was like, they flew us out there. Oh, yeah. We stayed in Beverly Hills hotels. We had a car. They paid for everything. And
the best restaurants out there.
Oh, yeah. So, they took really good care of us. So we went to the Whiskey. We played a show. And they said, "Well, just do 5 songs." I think we did like 5 or 6 songs. So just do 5 songs, and then,
right.
we're gonna play the documentary. That's what they told us. That's what they led us to believe. So halfway through the set, and the Whiskey, there's like there's like a balcony, like a catwalk where people can hang out and watch the bands. This light goes on, and there's Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley watching us perform their songs, and I was like, holy shit! I was like, because it's one thing of them seeing me work with Gene Simmons as far as standing there, but it was another thing them watching us perform their songs. So we immediately, everybody's musicianship went up tenfold. Yeah, so we all started freaking out, and then it's all on YouTube. And they ended up hanging out with us backstage, and we had great conversation. But that was like, all right, now where do you go from there after that? So slowly the band we just kind of started taking less and less shows, and then everybody kind of got into their own side projects. And then that was it for me with Kiss Nation. They're still going in New York, I believe. Here in Florida, I have Kiss It, which is a non-makeup version of the Kiss tribute bands, which again was looking back and seeing what everybody does and do the opposite. So there's no true non-makeup Kiss tribute bands out there. So we put one together here.
That's great.
Kiss It. Yeah. So
is that the one that you're going to be going on tour? You mentioned you're going on tour this summer in New York, and then also in Japan. Is that with this non-makeup Kiss band? No,
that's going to be with Revolt. That's my original music. That's all the songs that I've written and stuff like that. And with this band, that band is oddly enough, in the Kiss band I'm not wearing makeup, but in Revolt I'm wearing makeup. I don't know, go figure. But Revolt is kind of like it's kind of like a freak show carnival type of a thing. So my character in that band is called Los Muertes, and I'm kind of like the ringleader, and then I got my cast of oddities around me. So eventually, we started doing some shows here in Orlando. In August, we may be in New York. We're waiting to hear back for confirmation for that. And hopefully by next year, we'll be in Japan. We're looking to get out there and see how that goes for us. So it'll be interesting. So it's
Now,
all taking everything from pro wrestling and putting it into music.
a totally different angle, but it's great. But you're still in some type of makeup and some sort of
Yeah,
costume.
yeah.
So it
I was
continues on.
I was born into wearing a wrestling mask, and I think I'm probably gonna go that way in some kind of weird mask or face paint. Who knows?
Have they seen you in Japan and in parts of Europe? Have they seen you as Kiss Nation, as the Kiss tribute band, or has it only been the States?
It's only been the States. Oddly enough, we were supposed to Kiss It at one point. Did the first iteration of Kiss It wore makeup, and we were supposed to go to Japan, but it just so happens that Kiss had just released the #1 single there, so we were almost buttoned up with going there, and I was excited because I'm a Godzilla fanatic. So I was like, I just want to go shopping. I'm gonna go with empty suitcases and just fill them up with toys, and
Yes.
and oddly enough, Kiss did this with #1 hit, and then Kiss went to go do a run over there, and they were like, "Well, we don't need you guys because the real guys came." We're like, "Oh crap!" So there goes that. All right. So
They do. They have the coolest toys. Because I mentioned before, with all the toys you've worked in New York, you worked for Asylum Toys and
Art
Mattel
Asylum Toys. Art Asylum
Oh,
Toys.
sorry, Art Asylum Toys
Yeah.
and Mattel Toys. And
Yeah.
reading about you, you've actually designed and created a number of toys.
I worked on with a great design team. A lot of the times I helped lead the team in development and research, and then I also was part of the advertising and PR for the company. So Art Asylum was a great experience. That to me, if I ever put another company together, like where I can get that, it was kind of that just whatever we were working on, everybody I knew more about every project we worked on than I probably ever knew about anything else. And, we got to work with Star Wars, Star Trek, Kiss, Marvel, DC, movies like Crouch the Tiger, Hidden Dragon,
Yeah,
Rob Zombie, Alice Cooper. I managed to fit quite a lot in 49 years of my life. and I loved it. Huh?
You have a whole lifetime ahead of you.
Oh yeah, I'm not done yet. No, by no means.
You're not done yet.
But it was great.
So
Then
cool.
then I went to Mattel Toys. I did about 3 or 4 years with Mattel Toys.
Right.
And then that was just, but that whole time there was when I started really getting the inkling. I got to do I had these characters in my head that were just knocking on the door, and I just kept, all right, I'll get to you. And I basically walked away from a toy career. I walked away from my whole toy career to develop my own thing, because I needed to get my stuff out into the world. It was always great.
You flashed a little figurine, a little doll before. Can you show us?
Yes. This is the first lady of Espada Enterprises.
What's her name?
This is Rock and Roll Brat. She's from the book Rock and Roll Brat and the Kids. She's a little punk rocker. She's a little,
It's really cute.
Maybe ideally this might be the design for the Macy's Day Float. I don't know. We'll see.
Oh, that's cute. That'd be cute. Because I was looking, and from reading about you, and correct me if I'm off with the numbers. Currently, you have between 13 or 14 books currently on Amazon.com.
Yes, there's 14 books together. Number 15 is in the works. That's Draculos.
14 books.
Oh yeah, 14. Well, it really.
Yeah,
most of them are children's books. Most of them are children's books. Like I have one book series called Learning with Lucha, and that's like ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and colors, and that's really just taking and that's really just taking that and I always try to do things for kids who I felt were like me. Like, I never fit in anywhere. I was always considered the odd kid, the weird kid, the guy, this guy likes monsters and wrestling, and I was just never that. I never fit in to the so-called normal behavior of children. So I wanted to always develop stuff that spoke to children like myself. So like each book also has like a little note from myself to these kids, encouraging them to be themselves and really live their dreams and work on their confidence and self-esteem. So, learning with
Well, not
Lucha
only
is
that,
literally,
you foster the creativity.
yeah, exactly.
You're
And learning with
fostering
Lucha,
creativity in these children.
yes. And that's why I did learning with Lucha. So instead of like, A is for apple, it'd be like A is for avocado, and it's like a little avocado, and the pit has a wrestling mask on it. So little weird things like that. So that's still an ongoing series. Eventually we got Shapes is the next one that's coming out. Rock and Roll Brat and the Kids. That was actually my first book that my first solo book I put out 2 books with a friend of mine, with someone else. But Rock and Roll Brat and the Kids is basically these 4 kids who have adventures through their imagination. So the first book is about them putting together this rock band, and so she puts together all her little misfit friends. Same thing, they're kids that nobody wants to hang out with, and they put together this giant rock and roll show. And then at the end of the book, you find out they're just playing, with baseball bats, and and their toys are laying around them. So there's no audience, but in their mind, they were playing this giant rock show. So ideally, the way Rock and Roll Brat started out, ideally that was to me was going to be my American answer to Hello Kitty. So I wanted to do so. So initially, she was just a head. It was just a head with the skull with the pigtails, and then I actually decided to make it a children's book series, and hopefully one day animate a series.
Oh, really sweet.
And then Supergroup Go is basically taking everything I love, Godzilla, Kiss, He-Man, Thundercats, wrestling, rock and roll, and I just threw it in a blender and hit mix, and I came up with Supergroup Go, which is 4 teenagers who on Earth are the world's biggest rock band, but they're also the defenders of the galaxy. So they're intergalactic bounty hunters. So it's a very good versus evil type of a thing. And even like I said, all those books, there's a moral to the story, whether it's teamwork, and such things like that. Try to keep some kind of lesson in woven into the books. So, and it's completely kid friendly, but it has giant robots and crazy monsters, and it's all the, like I said, all the stuff I grew up on. It's like for today's kids, it would be Power Rangers meets Kiss, if I wanted to put it in that term for them. So,
or the Transformers, because now you have the Transformers
yes.
coming out here.
Right, because each of their instruments also become a weapon. So like it's a whole thing that's going on. And we actually, the third book we did, we actually got there was a show called Lucha Underground, and we got the wrestler Mil Muertes. His name is Ricky Banderas. He actually agreed to be the villain in the last book. So he I worked with him closely. We did the book. I wrote the book. He agreed upon it. We did 2018, I think it was, or 2019. We did a Vegas wrestling expo, and we sold about 500 books. So he was there to sign them all and stuff. So it was cool because it mixes the beauty and the pageantry of Lucha Libre with American Marvel Comics type of a feel. So that's what
and
that
you still
was.
you still have your comic books as well, besides these books.
Yes. I'm still working on the comic books. I'm still working on. It never ends.
That's awesome, because I was reading about all these books. You have Who's at the Zoo?
Yes.
All the children's books. There's Bath Aftermath.
Yep.
What Makes Thunder and Lightning?
Mm-hmm.
You have, like you mentioned, your series of Learning with Lucha to make learning fun, and that was learning the alphabet, which is the ABCs, numbers, and colors. And you had mentioned that in Learning with Lucha, that book honors, or that series honors, your father.
Yes. So he was very big on doing a lot of community service and stuff like that. Like when we were kids, my father actually, I don't know how he did it. I forgot. I didn't even know what movie company it was, but he actually, we were living in Spanish Harlem, and he actually ended up painting. He had them paint the side of one of the buildings white, and they would show every month. We would have some movie company would come and project movies on the side of the building, and all of us were sitting in this yard, between 2 buildings in Harlem. And my dad was good like that, so I kind of did that to honor his memory and do kind of continue what he was doing as far as community service and helping those out. So
Nice.
yeah.
And then what is you have a book called Los quotes. That's
Los
personal
quotes.
to you.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I used to do. I still once in a while I do more video blogging now on Facebook. I do a thing called Lovely Souls, and I kind of do it every morning. I do a little thing to kind of more of a reflection upon myself to try to make sure I remember how to be a decent human being, and then I try to help others. And if my words help out, great. And I try to encourage people to not give up on their dreams, and try to really look at the brighter side of things. Because I think right now everything's a negative. As soon as you tell somebody, "Hey, we're doing this," they immediately jump to everything negative that's going to happen.
Yes.
Hey, we're going to do this. When you go there, there's this, that, and that. It's like, hold on a second. Let's try to look at what could go right by doing this. So that I was using back about a few years ago, I was blogging a lot. So people kept saying, "Oh, you need to do a book. You need to do a book." So I did a book called Los Quotes. That's volume 1. And it's all the quotes that I came up with, I put in the book, but I made it so that you can tear the page out and either give it to somebody or hang it up as a reminder for yourself, to try to, whatever it is, like if, don't, if you always see, like one is like, if you always see roadblocks, you're never going to get to your destination. So if you always see something that's in your way, you're never going to try it. You're not going to try it. You're going to give up. So I try to encourage people to keep trying, like you're never too old, you're never too young, you're never uneducated, because we can educate ourselves so easily now with these devices.
Right.
So, there's really no excuse anymore to why you can't do something. I mean, financially, maybe, but there's still ways to create passive income. There's still ways to, listen, rather than going out every weekend, maybe take a job on the weekends, and it's going to stink for a little while, but at the end of the day, if you want to achieve something, you'll find a way. So that was kind of
even more
my
so. Even volunteering, if you want to learn something, find a person who's willing to let you watch.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That's how I got into the toy industry. Yeah. I got in, that's how I got into the toy industry. Like, so it was willing to go there for free for a while. Like I was at Art Asylum all till 2-3 in the morning sometimes with their artists and just picking brains and seeing how it all worked. So when you really want something, you'll figure it out. So
yes.
That's kind of the whole thing of Los Quotes, is to really just let's find a way rather than finding a reason not to do it or an excuse not to do it. Let's figure this out somehow, some way. We'll figure it out.
But it's nice. So your quotes are educational. They show a lot of enthusiasm, support, encouragement. And a lot of times people don't have that, especially if somebody's alone or if they live in a very negative type of environment. All that negativity can just totally stifle somebody's creativity.
Oh, absolutely.
And if you have somebody like you that could just, sometimes just somebody just needs that extra little push, those kind words, and say, something, he really cares. Yeah. And they internalize that. And then, it just makes for a better day. Because if you wake up in the morning and you just figure it's raining, everything's miserable. Okay, yes, it's raining, but I was splashed through the puddles. You still got to get to where you're going.
I tell you, it's funny that rain thing I learned while I was here in Florida, because when I first moved here, I was taking a bus, and I was walking, and it just downpoured on me, and I was like, man, it like depression set in for a little while, and then I just started thinking about singing in the rain. I'm like, what else? I can't do anything about it now. I'm soaking wet. May as well just. And I whistled singing in the rain on the walk home, and just like, whatever, it is what it is. You got to kind of like, it's easy to sink into a negativity because we're fed negativity 24 hours a day.
Yes,
and I can give you a platform.
Bombarded with it.
Oh,
You're
yes.
Right.
And if you look on social media, social media is a great platform. Any social media, all of it's a great platform. I use it. We all use it. But if you ever want to do an experiment, go on there and go, I hate my job. 900 people will tell you what to tell.
They hate their job.
Where your boss can put his job, and you're better than this, and F your boss, and blah, 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 blah. But go on there and say, hey, man, you know what? I woke up this morning and it feels good. 5 people might say, might agree with you.
It's true.
So we're
it's
so
true.
we're so
better,
trained.
It's just so much better to have a positive outlook You know,
It's
'cause
hard.
having a positive network, yeah, but it's hard. But at the same time, too, it's contagious. You know,
Yes.
if you see me in the morning and I start off the morning going like, oh, you know, morning's horrible, or it's like, you know, I ran out of milk, I didn't have my coffee, it's traffic, I overslept, whatever it is, that, you know, something, it's gonna kind of like permeate and seep into your
Yes.
day
Yeah.
because you just absorb my negativity.
Absolutely.
Where,
Well,
you know, you
it's been
start off very nice.
yeah. Well, it's been proven that if you, let's say, if you hang out with a group of negative people, even if you don't think that way, subconsciously, it seeps into your mind.
Yes.
So even when you don't realize it, your demeanor changes. You become the company you keep. So little by little, you'll start to become the collective. So it becomes like, unfortunately, a bad term, but it becomes like a cancer, and it starts to spread. You know, so the more people you keep around you that just see nothing but doom and gloom, that's all you're gonna get, because that's all you're seeking, right? It's like if I tell you right now, look around your room and look at everything red, everything red, everything red, and then I say, well, how many brown things did you see? You can't name one, because you were just so focused on it.
You know what color my room is right now?
Red.
The walls were red. I'm sitting in my friend's guest room, and the walls were red. And I'm like, everything's red. Furniture's brown. Everything else is red.
But the moral of the story is, whatever you seek, you find.
Yes.
So if you seek negativity, you're gonna find negativity every time. It never fails.
That's why a lot of times it's just so much better to just lose yourself in your own creativity.
Yes.
And, you know, and develop and really follow your passion. That's really what it is. You got to find your passion in life, whatever it is. And like you said, you're never too old to try something new. And if there's something that you always wanted to do, the only one who's stopping you from doing it is you.
It's you. Yeah. 100%. Like people are, because people
and learn it.
Yeah. I mean, because people always like, I mean, I'm September 5th, I'm gonna be 50 years old. But yeah. But people act like it's a death sentence. Oh, you'll be 50. Oh my God. I'm like, I feel fine, dude. I said, and listen, and God forbid I don't make it to 50. I managed to squeeze a lot into my 49 years of life. So I've pretty much accomplished almost everything I set myself out. Like working in the toy industry was a dream I had when I was 5-6 years old. You know, that on top of the wrestling, that was like my thing. Like, you know, toys. So I would buy toys. I used to charge $0.25 to the kids to fix their toys if they broke them. So I'd go home and fix all their toys and charge them like $0.25 to fix it. But
oh my God, Carlos, where were you when I was younger? Do you know what my brother did? I'll tell you this real quick, okay? So one time, I'm not in therapy for this. I had my entire box. I had a collection of my Barbie dolls, right? And I had I think maybe a Ken doll, but I had all my different Barbie dolls and Dawn and all the other dolls, right? They were in this big box. I kept them under my bed. And this is my younger brother. So whenever he would get mad at me, he knew he couldn't hit me or anything else because my mom, maybe she was a secret wrestler I didn't know about. She would chase him. He'd right up on the bunk bed, pull the ladder up so she couldn't get to him. So in order to get back at me, he took all the heads off my dolls and hid them. So when my friends came over to play, I pulled out a box and I got all these headless dolls. Almost to this day, I never found the heads. I could have used you back then. We could have found heads and put them on my dolls. I had a box of misfit toys. You can actually make that one of your characters. You can have like a headless doll.
I used to fix all the kids' toys. I mean, and then but you go back to the whole quotes book. Actually, and now like I said on Facebook, I have this thing called Lovely Souls, where every morning and evening I do a little morning affirmation and at night. But I don't do the weekends. Kind of try to keep the weekends for myself and my projects. So actually, it's cool. My friend David Carter made it says Lovely Souls on it, made a cross for me. So so it's great because as I go out now, it's funny, you never know who you inspire, because now when I go out and I'm in a nightclub or whatever, somebody will come up to me, Lovely Souls guy, you know. So we did bike week in Daytona, and these two big bikers come up to me and go, Lovely Souls guy, man, I love your videos. I don't know these guys from Adam. I'm like, well, thank you. You know, but it's cool. And I do get a lot of great feedback from them. You know, I had a person, unfortunately, who was, I mean, they knock on wood, they didn't do it, but they were at the end of their rope. And they emailed me, and we had a bit of a conversation, and you know, they felt that my videos helped them out throughout their daily task. You know, because you know, it's like you said, not everybody has somebody, so it's always good to feel like somebody's at least trying to help other people. You know, and I even did a video last week. I wasn't feeling my best, and I wasn't gonna make the video. And I was honest. I said, you know, guys, I wasn't gonna make this video because I felt like crap, and I was kind of feeling low. But I made it anyway. But because people always ask me, you make these videos, do you ever have a bad day? I'm like, yeah, actually I do. Quite a few. I said, but these videos are really me talking to myself. Because I don't, you know, I'm not sitting here. I'm not, you know, people are, I'm not perfect at all. Believe me, trust me. I know that. But in my videos, I really just like kind of like, hey, dude, get off your shoulders type of a thing to myself. And if it helps other people, that's great. You know, so you got to be your biggest cheerleader at the end of the day, because negative self-talk, it's just going to eat you alive. And I did a lot of that in my life.
Bad. It's true.
Yeah.
You know,
I did a lot of that in my life.
About that. You know, like if you talk bad about yourself, you know, like what's the point of me doing this project or trying to write this book? No one's going to buy it anyway. You're actually inviting from the universe. You're inviting this negativity to come and fill you up and surround you. And then you know something, in the end, you're not going to complete that because you actually brought that on yourself. Yeah. And like you said, you have to be your own cheerleader. Yeah.
I mean, I was for many years, I went to therapy and everything for it, but I was also that person. I was like, nobody cares. Nobody, it doesn't matter. You know, why even bother, you know? And what happens with that is your mind, and again, it's another scientific fact proven, your mind will believe whatever you feed it.
Yes.
So if you're feeding it negativity, guess what? That's going to just keep spinning negativity. And you just go down the rabbit hole.
That negativity also makes you sick.
Oh God, it's
having a negative mindset will bring you to an illness.
Oh yeah, your cortisol levels are shot, your stress levels are shot. You know, it ages. It can age you because you're just worried and you're bringing stress upon yourself. So there's a lot of things that and again it's hard because and at one point even I said the same thing about making videos. I said maybe I don't need to make videos because, man, everybody just sees it. I made a post and somebody immediately pointed out I made a post about forgiveness, and everybody immediately pointed out the worst reasons not to forgive anybody. And I said, obviously, listen, there's going to be levels, but for the most part, most things we think about, if we really sit down and think about most of our arguments, most of our disagreements, if you sit down, a good vast majority of those things are silly and really not worth an argument, really not worth the fight, really not worth the aggravation, really not worth not talking to this person. You know, communication, they say, is key, but so is comprehension. You have to understand each other. You have to be willing to understand each other. So, you know, and we're all guilty of it. We all kind of, depending on, you know, the emotional state you're in might depend on your reaction you give, you know, but if you're okay with catching yourself and saying, you know what, hey, you know what, I that was on me, you know, I'm sorry, you know, but that really made me think, like, man, why did, like, everybody just goes to completely the worst situation when you say forgiveness. Oh, but you know, this guy did this and he stole my money. About, obviously, I'm not telling you to forgive that person, but you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for yourself.
That's really what it's supposed to be. It's not for them. It's for yourself.
Right.
Because you walk around, you carry this with you. You're carrying this burden with you.
100%. You carry that anger with you. And the more you think about it, like, again, your mind doesn't know what's happening or what isn't. Your mind is what you feed it. So if you keep replaying that argument, you keep replaying that negative moment, your body reacts as if it's happening at that moment all over again. You know, so if I think about, oh man, this person did this, and third, now my body's reacting as if it's happening. So it's fresh. So you never get over it because you keep reliving that negative,
You keep pulling that scab off and you keep opening up that wound.
Right. And it's hard. It is hard. I'm not going to listen. I struggle. Everything we all struggle with it a little bit at some point, but you just got to stop, breathe, and try to get to that level,
It's true. And sometimes too, trying to understand where that other person is coming from and hoping that understanding where you're coming from.
Right. Because everybody has things going on, and that's the funny thing about the whole instant gratification of text messaging and emails and Facebook. I text you, well, you didn't answer me. Well, guess what? Maybe that other person was busy, or maybe that other person had something going on. If you think about it, when we were kids, you didn't hear from anybody till you got home from school and that phone rang. Now if somebody texts you, I texted you 20 minutes ago. Hold on. Maybe that person has something going on 20 minutes ago. Or maybe that person's going through something terrible. So people don't think of that anymore. Like, why are you not answering me? It's like, hold on, I'm gonna get to you. But it's
everything
now
is that instant. It's insane. That's the world we live in.
And it's an addiction.
Before we end, because I could sit here and spend hours with you. In fact, I think I'm going to come down to Florida. No, you have to let me know when you come up to New York. I want to see you in the band.
Oh God, yeah. We're looking at I think Arlene's Groceries. We're looking at playing, so I'll let you know.
Perfect, because then you're gonna come see my comedy shows too. So
absolutely.
So right now, for everybody who's watching Carlos, follow him on Instagram. It's Los_Espada_73. On TikTok, it's Los Espada Act. On Twitter, Los Espada 73, and you can get all of his books at Amazon /Carlos Espada.
Yes.
We're basically just putting Carlos Espada on Amazon and
on everything.
All his books. It's easier. Thank you so much. You were like so cool. I had so much more I want to talk to you about, so I'm going to be bringing you back.
I'm whenever you want. Yeah, I know we haven't even touched on the other new books and all. There's so much.
I know there's so much to talk about. I want something. In fact, maybe when you come up to New York, we'll do something live. That'll be fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That'd be great.
I'll come watch you perform and we'll interview you right there on the scene.
Oh yeah, I'm not responsible for anything that guy says.
I'm not responsible either. Thank you everybody for joining us. Where you just spent an hour with me with Carlos Espada. We were talking about his art, his project called Wrestling with Literacy, and it's a fabulous project. And keep going. And I'm so behind you. And thank you so much for all your positivity.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
This broadcast is produced by Griffo Productions.